Steelers Nation, what is going on? Thank you guys so very much for joining us on yet another edition of the Steelers Culture Podcast, where we break down Pittsburgh Steelers football, as this episode is powered by our great friends over at BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
And today in this episode, we will be discussing the dreaded cornerback position. As of right now, where we stand, I do not have the confidence in saying we have any legit confident corners. I don't think we have any good corners on the roster right now. We have a lot of young guys, all young guys as a matter of fact, but they're still very unproven. They are only coming into their second, third year as NFL guys on the Steelers roster. But none of them are really proven. None of them really have a full sense of trust from at least us, and probably I'd say a majority of other Steelers fans. The cornerback position is one of the biggest, if not the biggest need for the Steelers this offseason. They have plenty, but if I had to give you probably like a handful of needs, it's quarterback, clearly, corner, defensive line, and receiver. Today we'll be discussing corner because I feel like corner has been one of those positions the Steelers have taken very, very lightly. They have not been serious with their approach or who they've added. And if you've looked at the trend the past number of years, it's been a revolving door of vets and one-year gap fillers. No one's serious. And it's been this way for the longest time now. And I feel like this offseason, it's time that Steelers take the cornerback position seriously and find a legitimate, full future solution. Because corner, man, you know, it starts in the trenches, absolutely. But the secondary was dreadful last year. Whether it was coaching, whether it was scheme, whether it was too much soft zone from Austin and what he was throwing out there, putting his players in poor positions. And definitely the guys in coverage just being very lackluster. Overall, the cornerback position needs an overhaul, and they need bodies, and they need to have impact players immediately. And seeing what they've done the past number of years, especially who they've passed on the past number of draft classes, who are just now Super Bowl champions, I feel like now is the time the Steelers take the cornerback position seriously. I don't know about you, but They need to fix the position.
Well, I look at the cornerback position over the past number of years. The fact that it's been, like you said, a revolving door. It's been nothing but aging veterans and unproven people at that, especially unproven young depth at that, late capital depth, to be specific.
Yeah.
It's basically like the offensive line position before they actually took it seriously and took 2 tackles in back-to-back draft classes in the first round. They were just band-aiding the situation.
Yeah, depending on unproven depth and cheap veteran options. That's all they were doing.
And it continues to be the case for the Steelers when it comes to cornerback, hence why we are still talking about it. It seems like it's every year, here we are talking about the Steelers and the cornerback position. And here we go again.
Here we go again, guys. Going on with the cornerback position, one of the biggest needs very well could be the pick at 21 come the draft time. Do they sign someone in free agency? Do they sign someone in free agency and grab someone in the draft? I think that's ideal, but we'll discuss all that. But we want to thank you guys for joining us on this episode of the Steelers Culture Podcast. If you guys are new here, hit that like, hit that subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it and appreciate you guys' feedback. How do you guys feel about the cornerback position? What do you think their approach should be? Who do you want them to trade or add or draft at that position? Let us know down in the comments. Love to hear you guys' opinions and your guys' thoughts on what they should do for specifically today, the cornerback position. So thank you guys for that. We're also on Spotify, so if you guys want to listen to the audio version of this podcast, we're on Spotify, so feel free to go check that out if you guys are looking for audio-only content. And huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. Super Bowl 59 is in the books, and a huge congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles, who thankfully dethroned.
They more so dethroned Kansas City. They absolutely mauled Kansas City.
They destroyed, belt to ass, Kansas City.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre style. Let's be real here.
Yeah, it was a pleasant watch. I thought I'd never root for the Eagles, but here I was rooting for the Eagles, man. Jalen Hurts killed it. That defense, holy hell. That defense absolutely killed it. I've never seen Mahomes so pressured, so stressed, so limited ever in his entire career, man. What a blowout win by the Eagles. Congrats to them. But it's never too early to think about who's going to win the next one. Who's going to win Super Bowl 60 in Levi Stadium?
The big 6-0.
Now, the Chiefs are always going to be the heavy favorites, plus 600 to 1 odds. Next is the Ravens and the Eagles. Keep in mind, the Eagles are going to have a lot of players still intact. Coaching might change. They'll probably lose a couple pieces in free agency, but the majority of their guys, the majority of their roster are going to be intact, which is impressive. So the Eagles are still one of the favorites, the Bills and the Lions, and of course the home team or the home city, the Niners, very well could try to be another team to win in their own stadium. So you see all those odds and you see, you know, all these other teams. And specifically for us, the Steelers, I always like to look at their odds. Their odds are plus 6,000 to 1. Now, we are in the belief we're not going to win another Super Bowl for the next however many years now. So I'm not going to put no wager there. But who I believe will win the Super Bowl next year, I wanted Bills and Lions this year, and I'm still going to stick to that. I'm going to go, personally, I'm going to go the Bills.
Buffalo.
I'm going to go Buffalo. The Lions could, but they're losing a lot of coaching pieces. We'll see what Dan Campbell does. It's going to be a big season for him. They have a lot to prove. But the Bills, they're almost there. I think if they fix the defense and they try to limit Mahomes the way the Eagles did, and if Allen can have another MVP season, the Bills very well could finally punch that bully in the nose and make it to the big game. Whether they win it or not, you know, is to be determined. But as long as Josh Allen is there, I think the Bills are always going to have a chance. And I think now the Chiefs are vulnerable enough in the conference. I think, you know, the blueprint is there. And, you know, it's like the Bills still have a lot to prove, still have a lot to fight for. And I feel like their roster can only get better. So I'm going to put 20 on the Bills to win next year. 20 wins is 150. Now, we won't know for a year's time, but I'm going to go the Bills if you guys want to tell this. Or if you guys think the Eagles could repeat, if you think the Lions could, or any other team, feel free to do that at BetUS. And while doing this or doing any other NFL future odds that they'll have all offseason, make sure you use their sign-up bonus and that promo code YouTube150 to receive a 150% sign-up bonus when signing up today on your first deposit up to $2,000 and 125% on your next 2 deposits using that promo code to sign up. And they also have a casino. BetUS also has a casino, so if you're into slots or live casino deals, BetUS has a special offer for you. Not just that sign-up bonus, but a 200% sign-up casino bonus up to $5,000 and a 250% crypto sign-up bonus up to $5,000 as well. So take advantage of all these bonuses from our great friends over at BetUS. We appreciate them and thank them for sponsoring with us on this video. Just please gamble responsibly throughout the entire NFL offseason, which is going to be a very important one for the Steelers, man. The Steelers got to take a lot of things seriously. They got to have a serious, aggressive approach. There are so many holes, and I feel like the Steelers have a lot of resources to fix said holes, like quarterback, like corner, like receiver, like D-line, like maybe running back. I feel like they got all the resources. They have some cap space. They can only create more cap space, and maybe they make a couple trades. Maybe they trade some guys away to gain some more capital. I feel like the Steelers have all the tools this offseason to do what they have to do to build the roster. But cornerback is one of the biggest needs for the Steelers, and it has been for a number of years. You know, obviously after you know, the prime Dick LeBeau days, we went on an absolute dreadful run at the cornerback position. We couldn't find a decent cornerback to save our lives. You know, during that entire Killer B era, it was a great offense. The defense, on the other hand, not so much. The secondary was absolutely horrid to watch, week in and week out. It was just a mess. I have nightmares about it still.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to name you the names of the corners because I don't want to go down that rally.
But now I'll say this. They are embedded deep into my brain cells.
Unfortunately. But so are the days of Joe Hayden and Steven Nelson, which gave us some hope, gave us some confidence, gave us something to be proud of with the secondary. But ever since those days, and they didn't last too long as a duo, but ever since those days, it's literally been a revolving door of just vet pieces and trade guys and very cheap fillers. Nothing, no proper solutions, no really high draft picks to kind of build for the future outside of JPJ, and we'll discuss that, of course. But, you know, ever since Hayden and Nelson, they've had Akello Witherspoon, they've had Levi Wallace, Patrick Peterson, recently Dante Jackson. They've had James Pierre and Cam Sutton, who they both brought back this past season, which led to zero success, obviously. If you want to look at it from a slot aspect, they let Mike Hilton walk, and they have had a revolving door in that area as well. They've had Casey split reps. They've had Arthur Millette, Chandon Sullivan. What I'm trying to get at is they haven't taken the position seriously. They're just filling said roles. That's all they're doing. It's not like they're thinking of the future. They're thinking of now. They're going year by year is what they're trying to do. But that's the sense I'm getting when I think back at how they have managed the cornerback position.
Yeah. And I look back at the days of Steven Nelson and Joe Hayden, the duo that they were for the 2 years that they were together. I mean, it's something that I will always look back at and always appreciate. You know, growing up, seeing a dreadful secondary of what we had to deal with and those guys coming in as free agent additions and just them doing what they had to do, what they showcased, I'll always appreciate it.
Sure.
But they didn't last long. And, you know, like you said, the revolving doors, just the guys that they had that they brought in. You know, another name I'll throw in there is Justin Lane. They drafted him in the third round. The guy never even started one game. Just awful. And it goes to show that the Steelers' track record, honestly, for over a decade now has just not been good. Outside of Hayden, Nelson, Mike Hilton in the slot.
Yeah.
You know, you look at those three, really. Like, those are the only three guys that have really stuck out and, you know, showcased some capabilities and some consistent play at that, even in their short-term careers as Pittsburgh Steelers. Everybody else is just dreadful.
The last time I had a good feeling, I had some confidence, and I was proud to watch the cornerback position or the secondary as a whole, was that 2019-2020 run. Because that's how stacked we were. We had 4 legit corners, and they made plays, they made turnovers. They were dogs all over there. And the reason we do bring that up when we bring back the days prior to that is because, like you mentioned just recently, the track record for the Steelers at the cornerback position is so bad. It is so bad. You go so far back and you kind of open up the doors. You open up your mind a little bit and you think to yourself, man, the Steelers cannot draft corners. They cannot build corners. And still today, they cannot build corners. We are so dreadful at the cornerback position because going into the offseason, as we stand, the Steelers only have 4 corners signed to the roster. That is Joey Porter Jr., Ryan Watts, who was on IR all last year, Cory Trice, who has played a little more than a handful of games in his entire NFL career, and Beanie Bishop. That's it. So you're talking the 32nd overall pick a couple years ago from the Chase Claypool trade and late round undrafted capital. Picks. Bodies.
That's pretty bare. That's pretty fucking bare.
And they are,
Jar.
and I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers are going to rely on that because they have relied on those guys and unproven depth for a while now at many positions, O-line included.
Oh, they've done it for several years now.
And
at just about every position, you name it.
Yeah, they have. And my fear is they're going to do that again because there are reports that the Steelers are very, very high on Cory Trice, and they see him as the potential cornerback to Joey Porter Jr. Now, I do like Cory Trice. I see his upside. He has the measurables. He's very strong in physical and coverage. He's very sticky. Now, I know last year, you know, he made a great play versus the Broncos. Got that pick on Bo Nix in the end zone. Pretty much helped the Steelers win that game in week 2. It was a great play. He also got hurt that game. He missed the majority of the season. He came back. He had to step in when Dante got hurt every now and then. He didn't look good. Now, at the same time, nobody looked good towards that final stretch. Nobody.
No, not at all.
And, of course, the secondary and the play calling and what Austin was doing wasn't helping. Like we mentioned earlier, the soft zone. They weren't putting the guys in proper position. Who could forget that Bengals game where they put Cory Trice, a 7th-round pick a year prior, on the best receiver in the league, the Triple Crown guy, Jamar Chase, with 0 safety help. How many single-high safeties did they have with Minka? No safety help?
0. And the fact that they selected Joey Porter with the 32nd overall pick just a year before that, but they didn't have JPJ follow Jamar Chase wherever Chase went. Like, what kind of malpractice is that by the coaching staff?
It's awful malpractice.
Like, that does not bode well for Cory Trice. Now, I still like Cory Trice. I'm sure a lot of you still see a lot of upside in Cory Trice. The Steelers see upside in Cory Trice. I love his size. I love his tangibles. I love his ability as a coverage person. I do. But to rely on that just because of you see upside or the potential that is there, that's just too big of a risk.
There's 2 problems with that. There's 2 problems. One, he's injury prone.
Yeah, was out all his rookie year, unfortunately. And though he played in a handful amount of games, he was still hurt for basically half of the season last year.
Yeah, so he's injury prone and he's still very unproven. I'm not relying with that and just that going into the 2025 season opposite JPJ.
No, you can't throw out an unproven guy who's only played a handful of games in his NFL career heading into his 3rd year because of potential.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the coaching staff in the defensive back room, they do have a couple of names that could possibly get that potential out. I'll say that. They have Anthony Midget, who's the assistant defensive backs coach. I believe they still have Grady Brown, who's the secondary coach. They just brought back Gerald Alexander, who was the assistant defensive backs coach in JPJ's rookie season.
Same thing with Trice's rookie season.
Yeah. He left for the Raiders to be their safeties coach. And the Raiders safeties actually played pretty decent ball. Looking back at the Raiders season, which is pretty bad.
So having him back is going to be a great, young, insightful mind. I think that's going to be a good addition. That's really going to help JPJ and a lot of the young corners, and probably the corners that we're going to add, and might even get younger. They might take corner very early on, which I would highly recommend. But having him in that locker room is good. And if you guys watched Hard Knocks at the very end of the season, Grady Brown was telling JPJ specifically, dude, we need you to be that dude. We need you to be that guy, like that number one. Like, you need to be the face of this corner position. You need to be the face of this secondary. You need to be the guy that we can rely on in man coverage. And JPJ pretty much said, like, I get it. You know, next year I'm going to come back better. I'm going to come back a different person. And we can all hope and pray. You know, I still think JPJ can still be a lockdown guy, but am I a little more reserved in thinking and believing that? A little bit, because the second you show me a little bit of a downgrade or a bit of a sophomore slump, I'm a little more hesitant, especially with how many penalties he had throughout the season. He's so handsy, he's so grabby, and it's a big reason why, you know, the secondary was committing the penalties, or why was committing the blown coverage, or why, you know, the defense towards the end stretch just looked poor. That's got to be reduced. That's got to be limited heavily, along with his coverage skills and, of course, being, you know, strong in that area. That's all got to come as well.
Yeah, he's strong as a press man coverage corner. We all knew that, you know, just watching his film out of Penn State. We knew that he was a press man coverage guy. That's why the Steelers drafted him. But for some odd reason, Terrell Austin, our DC, still our DC, just decided to play a whole lot of soft zone, which is obviously Porter's worst trait. You can't have JPJ constantly and consistently playing zone coverage when many teams are obviously going to see that. They're going to acknowledge what the Steelers are doing, and they're just going to pick it apart like it's nothing. And there's nothing that, you know, JPJ and any other defensive back can do at that part. It's just difficult for them to do so. They can't really make a stop because the offense is reading what the defense is doing. It's predictable.
Well, especially if you're keeping the guys you have stationary on the defense and you're not running no double high safeties.
No, you're not moving them around. You're not changing any sub packages. You're not audibling. You're not doing none of that.
As we mentioned earlier with Terrell Austin, very basic.
So it's like, I don't want to put it all on JPJ and the players on the secondary, because, like, you know, coaching plays a huge factor. It's a huge component to, you know, where you can really get throughout the NFL.
Right.
Just look at the Eagles in their Super Bowl win. It's just incredible.
Unbelievable. And you look at it as well, the past two draft classes. The Steelers have Andy Waddle in their room as the assistant GM, who obviously had a big part in building what the Eagles currently have. You know, how they got to their first championship run, and then they got to their first Super Bowl matchup versus the Chiefs, where they lost, and you see where the Eagles are at now. Andy Waddle had a huge piece in the Eagles' first two of their now three Super Bowl appearances in the last decade. He's all about building the trenches, and believe me, winning in the trenches is everything, which is why that the Steelers have drafted tackles in back-to-back classes, and we've been big advocates, big supporters for fixing the tackle positions, because you need that. You need to protect the quarterback. You need to have strong guys there. And, of course, the coaching and where they're putting the guys, and, of course, injuries is not really benefiting what the coach or what the front office is trying to do. It's like they're being handed the tools and they're not using them properly. But at the same time, yes, the past two draft classes, the Steelers have missed out on two potentially elite cornerbacks. They traded up for Broderick Jones and didn't take Christian Gonzalez because they signed Patrick Peterson, and then they obviously drafted Joey Porter Jr. with the next pick in that same draft class. So I get that. But passing on a guy like Christian Gonzalez, who was the best player on the board, kind of tough, especially with, we don't know if Broderick's going to turn out the way he should or what we hope. At this stage, I don't know anymore.
Right.
And then last offseason, last draft, you drafted Troy Fautanu. Well, a guy like Quinion Mitchell was on the board, and you passed on him. You passed on 2 potentially elite corners for back-to-back tackles who are now going to be we got to be a lot more patient with said tackles. A lot more patient. Because Broderick's been out of position for the past number of years. Patano was out all his rookie season. So, looking in retrospect, yeah, you passed on those 2 guys who those 2 in their respective classes where the Steelers were picking were the best players available on the board. And now here we are talking about the cornerback position being a big necessity again.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like one of those things where you pick your poison. Do you want to fix the secondary? Do you want to fix the trenches in the tackle position? But it's also, you got to look at it from a prospect aspect, the best player on the board, and you got to think of the future at certain positions. The Steelers traded for Dante Jackson when they traded away Deontay. So they thought, we have a cornerback too. We don't have to take a Quinyon Mitchell. We can go after another tackle.
Again, band-aiding the situation.
And here's the problem. The past 2 years, they signed Patrick Peterson before the draft. They traded for Dante Jackson before the draft. You knew. Nobody believed that those guys were going to be here past 1 season.
No.
So instead of thinking of the future at that position, you thought, let's just go with these aged veterans and hope it works out for this upcoming season. Now, I know that they wanted to fix the tackles, and I commend them for that. I don't know if those guys are going to turn out the way that we hope they will. It's going to take some time. It's going to take a lot more patience now. But I also think it's malpractice by the coaching, and it's awful that we're still running with said coaching leading those guys.
Yeah, it just goes to show, they had Patrick Queen, they had Levi Wallace, they had Dante Jackson. They brought those guys in on minimal contracts. Well, they traded for Deontay, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like you stated, they weren't going to stay here for the long run. So the Steelers, they essentially just filled in the position for just the season up ahead, the upcoming season. That's it. They had no backup plan. They had no plan for the future. And, looking back at those draft classes, you and me were very adamant about going tackle because the tackle positions were very bare. They were bad. Dan Moore was not it. Chucks was gone. We didn't have a right tackle. We were very adamant about fixing the trenches, getting the tackle, and I was very pumped and excited that, that they finally addressed the tackle position, addressed the offensive line, because the offensive line was a serious need. It was a big issue for many years.
O-line has been the biggest need for many years, and they didn't think about the future of the cornerback position, but they did think about the future of the O-line. So I do want to give them, some props for that. And I do think that those guys will still turn out to be solid tackles, and believe me, we needed those guys. And we're going to need them to step up in the next couple of years.
Probably now more than ever, but...
And the thing is, you also trusted the defense a lot more than you did the O-line.
Oh, 100%, considering, they are the highest paid defense still today in the NFL.
Yes. Although at this point, that doesn't mean much anymore.
No, obviously it doesn't.
But I'm trying to get a thinking of what the Steelers were doing in the past 2 draft classes. But in retrospect, yes, passing on those 2 guys is why we're in this position right now at the cornerback spot. So what are the Steelers going to do now? Are they going to go after a vet in free agency? Are they going to go after a young stud early on into the draft? The top half of the cornerback draft is very stacked. But after that, it kind of drops off. So how high are you going to draft a corner if you don't sign someone in free agency? But here's the thing. I would still draft a corner high if you get somebody in free agency because you need a slot guy for sure. And you need to think about, what if JPJ doesn't work out? You got to think about that as well. And by the way, you can never have too many good corners.
No.
You can never have enough good corners.
No, what year was it? 2019. It was Joe Hayden, Steven Nelson outside, and we had Cam Sutton when he was good as a Steeler, and Mike Hilton. We had a stacked cornerback group, man.
Hilton in the slot, Sutton in the dime. And I feel like we can do the same thing with JPJ and maybe a rookie or a vet outside. You can have whoever in the slot at nickel, and Cory Trice play the dime. I think we can get right back to that.
Yeah, you don't need to throw Cory Trice, in the deep end of the pool or straight to the Wolves and have him be the cornerback 2 automatically, immediately. You don't need to do that.
No, what you need to do with Cory Trice is you need to develop him first. You need to make sure that he can stay healthy and get him going as a depth piece before you think, hey, this guy could be a future starter. This guy could be a solid piece for the secondary. But he needs to stay healthy, and you need to see more from him first. Get him going as like the new James Pierre, obviously a lot better. That's how I've always viewed Cory Trice. A 7th round pick, you're putting a little too much, what's the word? You're putting a lot of
pressure.
Pressure, not only into him, but you're putting a lot of stake at that as well.
That's a lot of weight on his shoulders. I mean, like, there's a reason why development is crucial in the NFL for young players, for late round capital at that.
Coaching matters. Coaching definitely matters.
It is a serious, serious thing. Like, you can't just throw him out there and be like, okay, show us what you got. Like, no, you got to take baby steps with this man. You got to make sure you can get him down the right path in the right direction, not the wrong lane.
Yeah, just
not the wrong path.
Don't just throw him into the wolves just because, hey.
And be like, oh, well, that failed. Now what's our plan? What's your backup plan? Because you never had a backup plan.
No.
This upcoming offseason, they need to have a proper plan. They need to have a proper plan in mind when it comes to the cornerback situation.
Agreed.
And looking at the free agency pool first, there's a couple guys that I do like that I do hope that the Steelers look in said person's direction and try to bring in for an interview and try to sign said guy. I'm talking about DJ Reed. I'm talking about Carlton Davis. I'm talking about Byron Murphy. Guys that are, still young at their position, that are still capable, have showcased lockdown capabilities, something that the Steelers have been missing for quite some time at the position.
Yeah, I'll even throw in like if the Steelers want to go the bloodlines, I know Tomlin loved them coming out of Florida State, and Asante Samuel Jr. has everything that Tomlin is looking for. Is he an outside guy? I mean, he sees a lot of outside reps, but I'd entertain possibly putting him in the slot due to his size. I think that'd be best for him. But I'm going to throw his name out there because he's a young option with a ton of starting experience. He's going to be a free agent. Tomlin had eyes on him during his draft process. I'm going to throw his name out there. But I feel like there are names, there are bodies out there with that's still young, that has a ton of starting experience, that has that leadership to him that you can bring into that cornerback room. And if you do, you can still go after a stud in the draft early.
Yeah, just like you said earlier, because like you can't go into free agency and into the draft signing a cornerback and thinking, all right, that's it, the position's fulfilled. No, you did that last offseason and it didn't work out.
No.
It did not. It showcased in the end. It was pretty bad. Cornerback play was still pretty bad. You got to have a better plan. You got to have a better approach to the position. Right. I would sign a guy, get a veteran in there, have him pair with JPJ, but I would still go into the draft and being aggressive at the cornerback position.
Agreed. Especially because let's say they go into free agency, they get like a DJ Reed, but they get like a Travarius Ward or a Carlton Davis. You have your outside guy opposite JPJ. You still need a slot weapon. That could be Beanie. He had 4 picks last year as an undrafted rookie.
Solid rookie campaign.
He was a standout towards the bottom half of the season. Film study. He really worked on his craft. He really worked on his coverage skills. He made some plays down the stretch, right? Props to Beanie. Is he the nickel guy that you should run with day one? I don't think so. Not without competition. Give him someone to work with. Give him someone to compete against. That way they can only better each other. But I would still like them to maybe go after a slot weapon early on into the draft if they fix the cornerback 2 outside perimeter spot opposite JPJ in free agency. Because look at Cooper DeJean. Look at Cooper DeJean, bro.
Oh, man.
First of all, I don't know how the Eagles managed to get Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper in the same draft class. That is just unbelievable.
The capital that they had, man.
The football god blessed Philly with that. But you look at Brian Branch. You look at Cooper DeJean, right? It's never too early to take a slot corner in the draft because they are legitimate game changers. A nickel corner is quintessential to the Steelers scheme. They haven't found that guy since Hilton walked. And Hilton wore a lot of hats. He did a lot of good stuff. He wasn't the best in coverage, but did he make plays? Yes. Did he blitz? Absolutely.
Was he an impact player in the slot? Yes, he was.
He was always around the football, and I think the Steelers need to get back to that. They need to find a proper solution. That could be Beanie, but I would still draft someone early because, again, you can never have too many good corners. You can't.
No, not at all. You got to get a guy outside, but you also got to get a guy in the slot.
I mean, it's just the Steelers have to take cornerback seriously because Steelers Nation, I want you to open your brain and think back to how many years of the cornerback position and who we have had in said years and what they have done at the cornerback position, who they've drafted, or what they've done at adding said guys in those certain years. The Steelers have done little to nothing to address corner for going on a decade and a half. I think it's time they finally fix the position, dude. Like, they have to. I'm getting tired of these gap fillers, of these one-year rentals, of these vet guys. It's getting old.
No.
The Steelers, man, the past 2 corners that they have drafted in terms of, like, how high they've drafted the corners, is probably JPJ most recently at 32. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I hate to say it, Artie Burns. I think those are the two most recent highly drafted corners in the Steelers' recent draft history. Correct me if I'm wrong. They haven't done anything to really, fix the cornerback position. They drafted JPJ, and I think he's going to be the guy. But have they really tried to find any other solution opposite? Not really. Not really. I think you need two solid corners in today's league. Because defense still wins championships, but you need strong coverage in a passing league. You really do. So I think the Steelers need to add another piece opposite JPJ. They should do that in the draft. They should do that in free agency.
I'd say doing them both. I agree.
I look at corner, receiver, and defensive line all the same. I think they need to make some splashes. I think they need to be aggressive. I think they need to add immediate impact players in free agency while still addressing those said picks early on.
And that's just, bringing impact level guys with, just their abilities to make plays at their respective positions, bring that level of impact that the Steelers could use at those positions, while also addressing, not just this upcoming season, but further down the line for the future.
Yeah.
Just build the foundation. Build for the future and take it seriously instead of just finding a guy and looking at a guy saying, all right, you can fill the position for this upcoming season. That's what we're looking for.
Well, look at it this way. So the Steelers go out and grab an immediate impact cornerback opposite JPJ, and they draft someone early on as well. Well, you have your entire trio fixed. Well, if JPJ doesn't work out, you did take a cornerback early on, and then maybe he could be that guy that could start or take over if JPJ doesn't turn out. Same thing with receiver. You need to revamp the receiving position. You grab an impact guy, an immediate impact guy in free agency, and still draft someone high in the draft. Well, what if Pickens doesn't come back? What if he doesn't get extended? What if something happens to him and his future in Pittsburgh? Well, you drafted someone high to fulfill that for the year after. Same thing with D-line. You need someone opposite Benton or right by Benton and Hayward. And you need to sign someone, ideally a Milton Williams, I can only hope and wish, and still draft someone in the draft. Well, Hayward is on the bottom half. He's probably going to play another year or two. You got to think about that future. It's all about building the future. It's about getting impact guys, adding bodies, and thinking about the future of the position because there is still some uncertainty there. We don't know if Pickens is going to be back. We don't know how much longer Hayward is going to play. We don't know if JPJ is going to turn out the way we hope he does. That's the mindset the Steelers got to have, in my opinion. And if they think any other way, then I think we're just going to be talking about the position all over again in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and then honestly, just like with offensive line for how many years we've been doing it and talking about it, I'm tired of it.
And I feel like building and fixing all that and doing all that would only give you all the flexibility to go after a quarterback in 2026. Because I know quarterback, to a lot of people, is the biggest need on the team.
And listen, that's obvious, right? That's obvious.
We don't have a starter, right? Like, as of now, if the season started tomorrow, we don't have a starting quarterback. We don't. So I get it. But you guys know we would resign Fields, and I know he's going to get a market, but we would resign Fields and do everything we mentioned with the cornerback, defensive line, and wide receiver positions and attack that in free agency and the draft.
Yeah.
That way, if Fields doesn't work out, guess what? You know you got to get quarterback, but you have all the flexibility. You can trade the draft capital if you have to. Go get your guy.
Yeah, because the truth of the matter is we are not a quarterback away.
No, obviously not.
That has been showcased for many years now, but most evidently in that 5-game season collapse, 5-game losing streak. It was just terrible.
Yeah.
We are not a quarterback away from anything. There's so much that the Steelers need to fix. Cornerback is absolutely one of them.
Agreed.
They have to revamp. They have to change. They have to bring in fresh faces. They got to make it better. They got to improve it. There's a lot that they got to improve. But considering that today's topic, the position of topic is cornerback, if it's not the biggest need, it's definitely got to be at the top of the list. Near the top of the list.
And here's the thing, though, with corner, and I know a lot of fans are going to say it, and some of you guys may have already said it in the chat. Maybe they're coming, but the Steelers aren't good at drafting corner, clearly. I mean,
again, their track record is pretty bad.
Dude, there's a reason why cornerback has been a revolving door. There's a reason why we have had so many people at that position for so many years now, whether that's under the Tomlin administration or whatever. But we are so dreadful when it comes to addressing that position.
It's like the opposite, because people say, the Steelers are so great at finding wide receiver in the draft. Cornerback is the absolute opposite.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned Justin Lane earlier, 3rd round. Who can forget Senquez Golston, second round? Never played a snap.
Obviously, Artie Burns. JPJ still has some potential, but, we'll see how he turns out.
Yeah.
But they also haven't drafted the position very high in so many years outside of JPJ. Before that was Artie Burns. Before that was years ago. So I feel like the mindset, specifically at the cornerback position, needs to be different this offseason. They need to go in with a serious physical approach. Be aggressive. Add bodies. You only have 4 people on the roster right now. All are uncertain. All are young. All are still unproven. 3 of them being late round picks and an undrafted guy. You need to add bodies. You need an impact player. You need to add people in the draft, and very high. Because like I said, the cornerback position early on in the draft, very stacked. Will Johnson, Benjamin Morrison, Javon Revel, Trey Amos, Jahdae Barron from Texas. I mean, there's so many other pieces.
Just talent out the wazoo, man. Just talent that, honestly, like, if they were to fall to your laps, it would be very hard for you to pass up on. Just based off, the past 2 draft classes on who you have missed up on, right? I don't know if the Steelers can afford to do it again, honestly.
I don't think so either.
Maybe 3rd time's a charm. I don't know.
So all in all, I mean, this could be said about so many positions, like we mentioned, receiver and D-line as well. But they need to have an aggressive approach. They need to attack this offseason.
They need to buff up the team. They need to bolster the proper and respective positions that they need to. They got to better themselves.
Yeah, they do.
It's the 3 Bs. Buff, bolster, better.
I love that. And that should be the mindset. Like, if they have a whiteboard in their front office or whatever, that should be on the whiteboard all offseason. Those 3 Bs, the triple B. So,
get to work, man. You got to get to work.
The Steelers have to.
Because the 2025 offseason now starts. Not officially. We got to wait till March 12th for the offseason to officially begin. But now the time to get to work.
Well, it's never too early to start thinking of, who should we target?
The time to get to work is now. The Super Bowl is over. The Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Congrats. Now it's time to get to work.
Agreed.
Because we need to get back to that.
I agree 1,000%. I mean, the Steelers need to attack a lot of positions, but I seriously think corner is one of the top ones, if not the top one. We'll see how it goes, who they target, who's available. It all depends how the cards fall and what free agents are going to go where, what their offers are going to be, if the Steelers show any interest. But my fear is they're going to rely a lot on Cory Trice. They're going to view him as a cornerback too, and they're going to do the bare minimum and focus their mindset on many other positions, such as D-line, such as receiver. I don't hate the idea. I just don't think it's ideal because it's exactly what you've been doing for years, which is why cornerback is so bad.
It's not the proper recipe for success. And you figured that they've done it so many times that they'd learn their lesson and think, we got to change some stuff up. Let's go to plan B.
Agreed.
But they never have a plan B. But now's the time to do so.
I think the Steelers just have a lot of resources to do what they have to do at said positions.
I can only hope that they have live and learn from their mistakes. But this is the Steelers we're talking about.
They got to build, they got to bolster, they got to better the roster.
Indeed, brother.
It's all they got to do at this offseason, but it doesn't start at corner, but it sure as hell kind of it doesn't start with corner, but it's right along the start of where it should be. Resign who you got to resign, figure out who the quarterback's going to be, and then go to corner and receiver and, like I mentioned, D-line.
Indeed.
So that's how I feel. Let us know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. What do you guys think the Steelers should do at cornerback? What do you guys think their approach should be? Is there anyone you want them to add in free agency at the cornerback position or any other position we may have mentioned? So we'll continue to discuss the Steelers' biggest needs throughout the offseason and as the weeks creep up into the legal tampering period and then the trading period and then the new league year starting in March. So all that will be coming, so stay tuned for all that. Otherwise, we appreciate you guys for watching, and we appreciate BetUS Sportsbook and Casino for sponsoring with us on this video. And again, when signing up and checking out those NFL future odds, make sure you use that promo code YouTube150 to receive a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000 and 125% on your next 2 deposits using that promo code, man. And take advantage of those casino bonuses as well if you guys are into that. So thanks to BetUS for sponsoring with us on this video. Appreciate you guys for watching. See you in the next one. And here we go, Steelers. The offseason is officially here. No more NFL games until August. So it's time to get to work. It's time to take this shit seriously. Bolster the roster. Here we go.
And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later.
Peace!